What is going on, everybody? I hope you're having yourselves a fantastic Saturday night. It's about 10:15. I'm Jimmy Smith, and this, of course, is On the Road to Victory. I thank you guys for taking your time to tune in this special weekend. We've got baseball, basketball, everything going on. I know some wrestling fans out there, WrestleMania. So I'll try to be as quick as I possibly can. But I thank you to those of you tuning in. If you have any questions, any kind of comments, let me know. Always here to talk some birds. Ted, my man, what's going on, brother? He's into the Mania. If you're into the Mania, I might have to check it out when I'm done here, see what's going on. The Sixers up 13, so looking good there, even though the Phillies lost. But yeah, hope you guys are having a good weekend so far. Now, yesterday, you guys know, hopped on real quick to talk a little bit about a nugget that Derek Gunn had dropped. And, he was talking about the fact that the Eagles, if they stay, well, it's not a fact yet, but usually when Derek Gunn drops something, everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt. But, he's usually on with what he says. So he had said that if the Eagles do end up staying at 12, and I found that to be telling, if they stay at 12, we talk about this. The Eagles could still move back up. They could move back, acquire more draft picks. And, you would ask yourself, why would we move up if we just move back? Well, it depends on what the cost would be to move up. If you're still gaining more when you moved out of that sixth pick, it depends. Anyways, a lot of things could happen. So Derek Gunn had said that, if we do stay at 12, could be a defensive back or wide receiver. Now, we've been talking about a lot of these defensive backs. A lot of people feel differently about, each one. And I really feel that we need another cornerback. You guys know that. I talked about this last year. It was not a good idea to have Avonte Maddox out there on the outside and, move him inside this year. We need a slot corner. I don't know that we bring back Strap or Nickel Roby-Coleman. So that would be the move for him. I'm not sure if he's a starter. I still think you address that in the draft as well. So that would be drafting multiple corners. Now, today we're not going to talk about corner, though. We're going to talk about wide receiver because everybody feels that we need another weapon for Jalen Hurts to really excel. Now, I like Jalen Reagor. You guys know that. I think Nick Sirianni is going to find a way to actually use Jalen Reagor correctly. And, that it's going to be a whole new offense. So I'm excited for that. We'll see what happens with Travis Fulgham. We'll see what happens with Greg Ward. We'll see, all these guys, Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, all those guys are gone. Marquise Goodwin never even had a chance to play here. But, we got the cap space. We got back an actual draft pick. So some things are working out. We're going to see these young guys. We don't know. Obviously, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside has looked like a bust so far. But we'll see, what becomes of him. But you got to address the wide receiver position. It's just a matter of, where you do that. Would you rather see us go Parsons or Surtain, Samuel? I would rather go Horn, as I've talked about the last few days. So, talking about these wide receivers, the question is, which round should the Eagles draft a wide receiver? I don't think it's a question of if they should, draft a wide receiver, because obviously I think that they should. Now, there's a lot of talent in this draft, and we talked about this while the Eagles were sitting at the sixth pick. You look at the talent in this draft, we didn't necessarily have to go there, but when you're sitting at six, I would have really liked Jamar Chase, and if not Jamar Chase, then Kyle Pitts. But look, we moved out of the sixth pick. It is what it is right now. For now, we're at 12. So you look at, a couple of the guys on this picture here, Jaylen Waddle, Devonta Smith, if they're available at 12, those are definitely some options for the Eagles. Now, if they don't go with a wide receiver at pick 12, say they go a JC Horn or, a lot of people like Micah Parsons, whatever they do, I think it should be between Horn and Surtain if you go in defense. We'll see who's available. But beyond that, if we're going receiver here, say that, Devonta Smith and Jaylen Waddle, they're gone. You went defense. Who are you grabbing in these later rounds? So we've talked about the fact that the Eagles could trade, and not only just that first round pick that they have, but we have multiple picks. So we could package some things together. You could throw Zach Ertz in there, but we could move that 37th pick and possibly move back into the first round. So, or maybe just, at the beginning of the second round. Well, my mistake. So, when you're looking at these guys, you have your first round talent, obviously Devonta Smith, Jaylen Waddle, and then you're looking at a couple guys that, maybe at the end of the first round, the Eagles could be intrigued to move back in. Maybe these guys fall into the second round. Not 100% sure here, but these are some guys that definitely intrigue me. So, that I feel very highly about, Devonta Smith and Jaylen Waddle. We've talked about them a million times. Terrace Marshall, you guys know how I feel about him. Obviously, overlooked because of Jamar Chase, but with him gone, he did a lot of things. He needs some work. He's a deep threat, but I like the guy, 6'3". Rashad Bateman, another guy we've talked about a lot. I think that any of those guys right there, that adds a very dynamic playmaker to this offense, and that only makes Jalen Reagor better. That only makes, your Travis Fulghams better and Greg Ward and all these other guys. But, let's just say that the Eagles don't go with one of these guys that, I just mentioned here. There's definitely some guys that if you're in the maybe let's say that, you trade around or you're staying with these two third round picks or you package some of these third round picks. You have a lot of options here, but there are definitely some options you can move around for. Now, this is just, I threw some guys together in the last hour, threw some graphics here together. But these are some guys that would definitely intrigue me. Kadarius Toney from Florida. We all know that this kid is a playmaker, but I don't know. Is he just a Tavon Austin, Percy Harvin guy, or is he going to be able to come to the NFL and be more than just a fast guy? He looks pretty fantastic with some of his route running. So, I mean, you never know. You honestly never know. You heard what they said about Tyreek Hill, and look what he's doing. So, Rondale Moore, that's somebody I love. This kid is a beast. I think he was squatting like 600 pounds or something. But you've heard, obviously, because of his injury history, a lot of people knock on him. My buddy Evan from over at 4th and John, he's very high on Elijah Moore. Guy I see more of a slot receiver, but hey, we could use that. And he did pretty well at Ole Miss. Wouldn't be against that. Diami Brown, somebody from North Carolina. I would totally be okay with him. Sage Surratt. And, throughout Eagles Twitter and social media and everywhere, you see a lot of people hearing these names and they're starting to really climb up the ladder. And I really, a lot of these guys, like I've said for the last couple months, are very intriguing to this team. So don't get your hopes up, if we go with a guy you don't like necessarily right away, because there's a lot more talent, And then there's Dwayne Eskridge. That's somebody you guys know I'm very high on. But that would be, this is somebody I find more probably in your third, fourth round, but threw him in here. And the same goes for Tylan Wallace. I just, a fan of these guys, so I threw him in there, but probably more third round prospects. But guys that I'm excited to see. Would I be disappointed if we use one of the threes to trade back up to 9 or 10 to grab Surtain? Not really. I want us to get a cornerback, but I think one of those corners will be available. And I don't think you're going to be able to move to 10. I don't think the Cowboys are really going to want to trade with us, but if you could convince the Broncos at 9 or maybe the Panthers at 8 to make a move, that could be a possibility, Ted. But I don't know that I would trade my third round pick just to move up those couple spots. I think one of those guys will be available, but we could package those things, like I've said before, to move up a couple spots. Maybe somebody falls that they really like, whether that's one of those corners or one of those wide receivers. So we will see. But let's say that we miss out on a couple of these receivers. Here's some more of the third, fourth round prospects that I have been intrigued by. Amon-Ra St. Brown from USC. Definitely somebody I like a lot. Tutu Atwell out of Louisville. More of one of those slot guys we've talked about. Tamori Terry, I really like, out of Florida State. Shi Smith out of South Carolina. And then Demetric Felton, a guy that, he could either be a running back, wide receiver. They really have him as a wide receiver prospect. But this kid, jack of all trades, I'd love to see him in this offense. That's somebody I would definitely take a stab at in the fourth round. So now that we have ourselves a fourth round pick, that's something that is much more of a possibility. But if you don't hit right there, we're looking at some later fourth to seventh round. I mean, these guys, I'm sure there's a couple names maybe you guys have that you could throw out there that I didn't put on here, but I try to put everybody that, intrigued me on here. Daz Newsome, little overlooked. just and obviously, Diami Brown is the better receiver, but yeah, anyways, Daz Newsome's still a good receiver. I really like Jalen Darden. Frank Darby looked good at the Senior Bowl. Cade Johnson out of South Dakota State. I like Austin Watkins, the guys over at Fourth and John. Had a chance to sit down with him. It was a great interview. Excited about him. Trevon Grimes, somebody I'm really excited about. Obviously overlooked because of Kadarius Toney. But yeah, there's some guys on here that I would really be excited with. Amari Rogers, TJ Vasher, Tyler Vaughn's even. There's definitely some talent. Cornell Powell out of Clemson. I would be excited if the Eagles ended up with. So don't just think that if the Eagles don't go after a wide receiver, if they go defense in the first round, that it's all over and, life is over. I still have a lot of faith in this wide receiver room that the Eagles have right now, but I do think it would be the right decision to add one or two receivers, whether that be whatever round you just saw. There's talent throughout this draft. You can add guys undrafted and let these guys compete. I'm excited to see what Jalen Reagor does in this offense. So it's going to be a run-heavy offense, but I think you're going to definitely see these guys flourish like Jalen Reagor that should have been used on so many. I mean, it's asinine to sit here and still talk about it. Jaylen Waddle recently got talking to the top 15. Do you think he's aging? Top 32, maybe. Oh, he's by far top 32 talent, man. Yeah, he's definitely top. He's definitely top 15. I mean, that's something we've been talking about for a while, Ted. Yeah, he's a top receiver. If he doesn't get hurt, Devonta Smith doesn't win that Heisman Trophy. And not that he's not good, but that's because that's how good Jaylen Waddle is, and they both would have had to eat. So that kid is phenomenal. Yeah, man. Jaylen Waddle's really good. If we could end up with him, I'd be ecstatic. You've seen some of the mock drafts say that the Giants will be the team that ends up with him. We have no idea who's going to take who. But yeah, he's definitely a guy that I could see, going in the top 10. He could go before Devonta Smith. I'm not sure that he goes before Jamar Chase, but I think, it depends on what a team is looking for. And Jaylen Waddle, if a team, thinks that he is that Tyreek Hill, then maybe, they go ahead and grab him. But I think Jamar Chase is the number one wide receiver, and obviously he's probably the consensus number one. But I think that's well deserved. Even sitting out last year, everyone saw how good he truly was. So I think that there's a lot of talent in this draft, and I'll pop those up here one last time. But as you see here, if you end up with one of those guys, I'm ecstatic. If you wait till the second, third round, hey, a lot of guys here that we talked about, Kadarius Toney, Diami Brown, Sage Surratt, Eskridge. I'd be very ecstatic to get these guys. So once again, just because you take one in one of the rounds doesn't mean that you won't get them in another one in another round. So you could get a Josh Palmer in a later round. So if you get an outside receiver, you could find yourself a Tutu Atwell slot receiver in a later round. And then the last rounds that we talked about. And look, who knows where these guys are going to end up? This is just, where I kind of had them in the last hour. So that's where I put them. So that's just a little list for you guys to take a gander at. Hopefully enjoyed it. The Giants drafted them. They're dummies. They have Slayton, Shepard, and Galladay. Big deal. Well, I don't know if they're dummies. They're trying to help their quarterback. So, hey, look, if they would add him, that's a dynamic receiver. All those guys you just mentioned, minus adding Galladay, is obviously fantastic, but injury-prone guys that aren't necessarily like star wide receivers. So, Jaylen Waddle, no one's an idiot if they would take Jaylen Waddle. I would definitely check his tape out, Ted. That kid is fantastic. He's a burner, but he's also a very good route runner. He's got great hands for being a speedy, 5'9", just, he's a speedster. Obviously, people just give some of these guys that title. He's more than that, and I think deservedly so. And I've talked about this. This draft class, to me, is better than last year's when it comes to wide receivers, when it is all around, and then even the top ones. Last year it was what? CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, and then the kid on the Raiders, Henry Ruggs. I think that these guys are better. I think Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, and Jaylen Waddle are the better wide receivers. So this draft is loaded, and I think that's where Howie was thinking. And look, I'm not trying to justify moving out of 6 because I really wanted to get a Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts, but I think they are aware of how many holes are on this team. They acquired another first-round pick, moved up 33 picks in this draft. It's a great move. You obviously move 6 places back, but you're still going to get a very talented player. We have talked about it throughout the last couple of weeks, what picks are available, what we think are going to be available. And someone's going to be available at 12 with all the talent we talked about. So I'm excited about it. And I think, we are aware that this is a team that's retooling. We have a lot of holes. So got a lot of work to do. And it's not just going to be one star player. So if you can acquire more picks just to move a couple back, it made sense. And we're going to keep wheeling and dealing. Howie is pretty good at trading. He's pretty good at working the cap. Those are the things he does. So we can just hope he flourishes at what he's good at. And then when it comes to drafting time, he listens to Andy Weidel. He listens to the scouts. He listens to the coaches, whoever the hell actually understands football and not himself. So that would be great, but we'll see. What do I think about the Panthers getting Darnold? I think it's a all right move. Yeah, he's young, and the Jets sucked, so they didn't really do much for him. The Panthers needed a quarterback. Maybe they felt that the guys they liked weren't going to be available at 8. They weren't going to wait around to find out, I guess. Maybe because I heard they were part of the mix. A lot of teams are talking, moving around. Panthers are fine with 8, found themselves a quarterback in Sam Darnold. So only had to give up, like a second and then a 6th and a 4th. Whatever, dude. And that's next year, the second or whatever. Hey, fine and dandy. They get themselves a quarterback. I think good for them. Robbie Anderson and him back together. That's good. They lost Curtis Samuel, though, to Washington. Hate that. But, yeah, I think it's an all right move for them. And I don't know if they felt strongly about the quarterbacks that were going to be available at 8. So did what they had to do. Good for them. Now, what we need to do is grab ourselves some talent, and throughout this draft is a lot of talent. You saw the wide receivers that I showed you, and if you're watching this later, watching this at any point in time, feel free to let me know who you're seeing, who you'd like. We can talk about it. I appreciate all of you that like, subscribe, retweet, whatever the hell you're doing out there. I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in on this beautiful weekend. I hope you guys had a great day. It was actually really nice here. So that was a nice change for once. So, yeah, if you're watching this later, let me know who you think we should get and which round you think the Eagles should draft a wide receiver. Thanks for tuning in tonight. And as always, go Birds!